For some background, I've always been able to understand animals, but I never knew it was an ability and thought I was going insane. My earliest memory of my ability was when my parents brought home a rescue dog as a gift after I begged them for a puppy, and the dog started telling me it was going to kill me if I mistreated him like his previous owners, and I burst into tears. My parents assumed it was me being scared until I told them what he'd said, and their faces showed a concerning look I only grew to become all too familiar with. Shortly after, I was thrown from psychologist to psychologist, becoming an object of research for varying antipsychotics. As the voices never went away, it was only in my early teens that I really started to listen. I was at the tail end of my rebellious streak, had unofficially been off my medication, and on my walks to school I'd hear all manner of things, from birds planning how they'd build their nests to the ants having orders barked at them for their strict regiment and loyalty to their queen. I even got to know some regulars. There was an old dog that would sit on the porch of a house on my route named Gus. He told me his actual name was Tom, and went into great detail about his life and how he was briefly astray before being taken in and living a calm life away from his primitive past. It's not all it's made up to be though. People still thought I was crazy when they caught me chatting to various bugs on the wall, or having more profound interactions with pets beyond the condescending "who's a good boy" spiel. Once I was out of school, and in the workplace I chose to ignore the animals I came across, which became increasingly difficult as I'd gotten to know all the creatures in my immediate vicinity. I couldn't afford to move away, so I always had a handful of voices calling for me on my commute, and it was like I was right back to being insane. A full year passed like this, ignoring the animals I had come to know and appreciate. I got along fine until they all stopped talking to me altogether, and it was only then that I thought about what I'd done. I'd taken away their only bridge of communication between their world and ours, their only way to be really understood, and this gave me a change of heart. So on my day off I went out and tried to talk to as many animals as I could to re-establish our connection and offer back what I'd ripped from them. But I heard nothing. I hadn't noticed it before, but the world was more silent than I'd ever known it to be. But through my ignorance, I never noticed. I ran to every creature, an animal I saw, desperate to help, to listen, to hear something, but all I got back was stern silence and several pleas to stop harassing people's pets. I got so desperate that I went back to Tom's porch in the hopes that the old boy had pushed through the years and could be the voice of reason. But he wasn't there. Obviously he had passed. No dog could have lived as long, especially one who was already as old as him. However, there was another, more spry-looking hound in Tom's old spot, so I approached him. Again I was met with silence, and decided to just rant to the dog. After all, it wasn't going to stop me, was it? I went for ages, tearing up about my guilt, how I know what I'd done, and begged for forgiveness. Then I heard something, whispered quietly underneath a breath. I turned to the hound to listen closer, and could just barely make out what he was saying. "You take from us, we take from you." I was taken aback, and walked away slowly. The dog never looked at me, but I'm glad, as creepy as it was, I didn't want to face this thing head on. I walked home dejected and hardly noticed the now increasing cacophony around me. That was the noise I'd been missing for years, but it was off. It was in unison, all of them repeating the same phrase. "You take from us, we take from you." It followed me home, more and more voices adding to the terrifying symphony as animals flocked to my location. I made it home and am now putting this post out. My house is surrounded, and there's more voices joining by the minute. What do they want to take from me? "5 a.m. on the dot, I woke up to the sound of my printer going off in my office down the hall. I thought nothing of it. Maybe it was a bug in the printer, or my cat ran over the power button. Maybe it was a paper informing me of an update, or maybe it was an advertisement printed out by HP themselves to make a quick buck. I had seen that on Reddit before. I soon went back to sleep because I had work in the morning. When I woke up, I had gotten a text from my boss telling me that, due to an unexpected blizzard, everyone would have to be working from home today. With my pajamas on and my coffee brewing, I went to my office to start my computer, and that's when I remembered my printer going off. I went to go check what it had printed, and my heart sank. It was me, like a photo of me, but it wasn't a photo I had taken. It was me leaving my work building. The photo was taken from a table from the coffee shop across the street. I was thoroughly freaked out for the rest of the day. Soon it came time to go to bed, and I tried to think of a rational answer as to why what just happened. My rational side figured that I wasn't a sensible target for stalking, so it had to be a prank of some kind. My suspect was Carter. He was experienced in IT and often got out before us, and he likes to go to the coffee shop after work. Combined with the fact that I'm a relatively new hire, I figured that this was some kind of initiation thing for the IT department. The next day at the office, I asked Anna if she ever had a similar experience when she joined the IT department. She's also a relatively new hire. She's only been in the IT department for a little over 6 months now, so if Carter had ever pulled a prank like this, it would still be a fresh memory. She looked bewildered and told me that no such thing had ever happened to her. Okay, maybe when Carter's done joking around with you, he tells you to play along. I figured, while I do love a good prank, I'd definitely have to report that to HR or something. When I got home from work that day, I passed my office on my way to the kitchen, and I saw a piece of paper on the edge of my printer. I picked it up and took a look at it. On the page were 2 photos. One was a photo of my car, the other was a photo of my license plate, and it was back to being scared. I wanted to call the cops, but what could I tell them? Officer, somebody's hacking my printer. No, that sounds stupid. The next day, it was a photo taken from a car next to mine at a stoplight. The next, it was a photo of me and my friends at a bar. The next, it was a photo of my mother's grave. The next, it was a photo of me at the post office. The next, it was a photo of me visiting my father's house. It had become a daily thing for me, checking the printer first thing every morning. There was always something there. Yesterday, it wasn't a photo, it was a list. Flipboard, leash, spare tire, sunglasses. And when I went down to my car, I found the driver's side window destroyed. Someone had broken into my car. I checked the car, and everything on that list had been stolen from it. Now I had evidence. I could finally call the police. I called them that night. They came over, investigated my printer, inspected the damage in my car, and left. They told me they were opening an investigation. Some DNA had been found in the car, and they were working on creating a profile of the perpetrator. That night, the printer went off again. It was the first time it had done so more than once per day. On that piece of paper was the most disturbing thing I have ever seen. On it was my full address, apartment number, door code, full name, and birthday. Below it was a photo of my front door. Below that was a photo of a toolbox containing a bottle of chloroform, a rag, a rope, and a box cutter. Lastly, there was a photo of 3 masks in a box. The masks looked like mutilated human faces. It wasn't like Halloween masks. These masks were covered in a deep bronze shade, dried up blood. These masks had blemishes, cuts, wounds, and layers of skin. I could see their pores. They were rotting. These were real corpses. See you soon was written at the bottom of the page. I'm staying at a friend's house tonight. I'm scared. What do I do?